Row 3A. English teacher detective Simon Sharkisle usually teaches at Seaside Academy, but whenever a mystery surfaces, people ask for his help. The plane had just reached cruising altitude over the Pacific when the call button chimed. A flight attendant rushed to seat 3A, where an elderly woman was convulsing, her hands trembling violently. Within moments, a call for medical assistance went out. A passenger, an off-duty physician, sprang into action. The woman survived, but the pilot turned the flight back to Narita. By the time Simon Sharkisle learned of the incident from the crew, the woman had been stabilized and moved to the front galley. Her condition pointed to acute poisoning. A used paper cup sat on her tray table. The tray table was perfectly dry. Simon asked quietly, "The water?" "I gave her that water in a paper cup," the flight attendant replied. "I think she had brought a small bottle of water on board, a brand new one. I heard the safety ring snap. We were still climbing then, the seatbelt sign was on. She opened it and drank it pretty quickly. I remember that because it was gone in no time. Maybe that's where something was added. After that, I brought her a paper cup of water. She said, 'Thank you, I get thirsty easily,' as she took it." The woman seated beside the victim, Dana Feldman, a 50-something nurse, nodded calmly. "Yes, I handed her the cup. She seemed a little unwell, so I thought I should help." Dana was seated in the middle seat, while the victim sat by the window. Her calm, helpful demeanor seemed consistent with that impression. Simon noticed how naturally she carried herself. Another flight attendant added, "She's been kind throughout the flight. Helped a man find his headphones earlier." Simon turned back toward the business class cabin. He asked to speak briefly with a few of the nearby passengers. A service car had just cleared row 3, and 2 paper cups were still stacked near the galley. Gavin Trent, a sharply dressed consultant in his 40s, was seated just behind the victim. He wore noise-canceling headphones around his neck, set them in the seat pocket, and reached up to the overhead bin once just before the chime, and answered in a steady voice. "I was dozing for most of it, but I did see the flight attendant hand something to the nurse, who passed it over. I couldn't hear what they said. At least from what I saw, nothing out of the ordinary. The engines were loud, so I wouldn't swear to the finer sounds, though." Claudia Nishida, seated in a window seat in the same row, was more forthright. "I saw the nurse, Ms. Feldman, is it? She seemed attentive, but maybe a little too attentive. I assumed she knew the woman. I stood up once to stretch, and she asked me if I needed anything." Theo McKay, a university student in his 20s, said, "I didn't take any drinks. I brought my own barley tea. Didn't have any contact with her. I'm not a big fan of flying, to be honest. I try not to drink much to avoid needing the restroom." Reviewing the accounts of the flight attendant, Nurse Feldman, consultant Gavin Trent, window seat passenger Claudia Nishida, and student Theo McKay, Simon mentally replayed the sequence. Somewhere in those details, something didn't quite add up.
Have you solved the mystery? Do you know the answer? Submit your answer at the site below. Scan the QR code on the screen or use the link in the video description to send it in. Outstanding answers will be featured in the comments section of future videos. See you next time for another mystery.